Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Meredith Leidy. I am the mayor of the city of Northglenn. Welcome and thank you all for joining us this evening, our guests in person, our panelists, and also those of you joining us online. The city of Northglenn is pleased to be co-hosting tonight's Hate Crimes Forum with District Attorney Brian S. Mason. We really appreciate his partnership, as well as the support from our other panelists. Northglenn has made a conscious decision to prioritize diversity, inclusivity, and equity efforts. That decision was easy to support because I feel most of us are motivated to do the right thing. The actions to fulfill that commitment are much more difficult. Identifying hurtful issues, having hard conversations, finding pragmatic solutions, and then making those solutions a reality is a daunting task. Hosting this forum is the first of many actions we will take that puts us all in at least a bit of discomfort. Yet we know it is what we have to do to move forward. I would like to extend my deep gratitude to Gerald and Isan. It hurts me to think our community has hateful things happen within it, but that is simply a reality in our world. I am proud that we have the courage to address it head on, and we would not be able to do that without voices like theirs at the table. In the next 90 minutes, you'll hear their real stories, learn about hate crimes laws, understand what resources are available to you, and you'll get a chance to ask your questions of our panelists. Most importantly, I hope after this evening, you have a better understanding of this issue and how we can work together to proactively address hate crimes, and not only in Northglenn, but everywhere. Again, on behalf of the city, we welcome you. We are grateful you are spending time with us this evening for this event. And it is my sincere pleasure to introduce Kyle Moloka, our House Representative for District 34. We are very grateful you are here, so welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Leidy, and thank you to Northglenn for having us here in the 17th Judicial District. For having us here as well. My name is Kyle Moloka, and I'm the state representative for House District 34. Me and my family actually live here in Northglenn. It's where we're choosing to raise our family, and I've had the privilege of growing up in this district. I also had the privilege and the honor of being raised with two moms, and I've shared this story before, but I remember as a child when Matthew Shepard was murdered, and being a son to two moms, wondering if someone was going to try to hurt my mom because of who she loved, and not knowing if I could do anything about that. And that had a profound impact on me. And it had a profound impact on why I'm so involved in my community today, to make sure that we are building that inclusive community. And that's what we're here to do, is we're here committed to building that diverse, that inclusive community, but not only building it, maintaining it. And so that's why I'm here tonight, is to make sure that we're doing all that we can to continue building it, to also maintain it, because we have had growth, but the work's not done. And so I'm excited to see where this conversation goes tonight, the growth that'll happen tonight, and the growth that'll continue to come from tonight. And it's my great honor to introduce our district attorney, Brian Mason.
Thank you so much, Representative Moloka, and thank you for your leadership on this issue of hate crimes. My name is Brian Mason. I'm the district attorney for the 17th Judicial District, which is all of Adams and Broomfield counties, and including the city of Northglenn. And it's an honor to be sponsoring this event tonight with the city of Northglenn and the district attorney's office. Hate crimes are particularly important right now because they're up. And they're up in the city of Northglenn, and they're up across our judicial district, they're up across the state, and they're up across the United States. And so it's important for us tonight to talk about what a hate crime is, what we can do about it, what the legal community can do about it, what the law enforcement community can do about it, and what you as an average citizen in your homes here in Northglenn, in a city that we all love and are invested in, can do about it. So I'm grateful to my fellow panelists for joining me tonight. I'm grateful to the mayor and the city and to Representative Moloka, and I'm looking forward to this discussion. Again, thank you for those of you who have joined us in person for being here. Thank you to those of you who are online or listening in on the phone. I think it's going to be a really important discussion about hate crimes. And now it is my honor to introduce our moderator tonight. Tamara Dixon is the Human Resources Director and Chief Diversity Officer for the City of Northglenn. Tamara, take it away.
Thank you so much, Brian. Welcome, everyone. Really glad to see you here tonight for this very important conversation. We're going to jump right in. Each of our panelists will be given 5 minutes to share their perspectives once I introduce them. 5 minutes is not a long period of time, but that's because we want to make sure that we are leaving plenty of time at the end for your questions. Those calling in or watching virtually, please remember to press *3 if you should have a question. Those in the audience will be able to ask your questions when prompted. There will be a series of poll questions. Those watching virtually will be able to answer from your mobile device. Those in person, you'll see those same questions on a form provided on your seat, and you will be able to answer as well. We ask that you please leave those forms when you leave this evening. During tonight's forum, here's what's really important. We ask that you stay engaged. Listen for understanding and be respectful that we have a limited amount of time tonight. Please feel free to ask questions, but also be considerate that others may also want to ask questions and participate. That's including you in the room and those watching virtually. With that, I want to introduce our first guest panelist tonight. Gerald Montour, or Mr. M, is the founding assistant principal of the American Indian Academy of Denver. As a licensed principal, he has over 25 years of experience in the field of education and specializes in English language development, Indian education, and serving underserved student populations. I turn it over to you, Gerald.
My name is Gerald Montour. I come from the Dene and Haudenosaunee First Nations. I am honored to be here today, and I come to you and I want to talk about, there was that conversation about hard conversations, hard questions, and hard topics. So I want to talk about white privilege. When we think about white privilege in our community, it comes from a mindset that I, as a Native American, lived with my entire life. It hasn't increased in the last year, 2 years, or 3 years. It's something I've lived with all my life and had to endure. In Northglenn, I currently have a pending case that I cannot talk about. So I will not go into any details about that. But I do and have, a situation where I endured for almost 4 years the constant harassment and the constant display of white privilege from a neighbor. My neighbor would drive up to our house. He would give us if it was myself or my wife or whoever was there, we would get the Walt Disney type of activity, and he would drive up right in front of my house. He lived right next door, and he'd say, "Oh, there's the savage." Whoa, 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 whoa. And this is the type of white privilege that I had to endure in the city of Northglenn. Through this harassment, the Northglenn Police Department was called to my house 59 times. And in this 59 times, it varied from my dog to, at one point, I was firing high-powered weapons out of my backyard when the policeman watched me walk up the sidewalk. I was walking my dogs. I unharnessed my dogs, put them in the house. The policeman walked up to me and said, "We have a report that you're firing high-powered weapons in your backyard. We want to come in and search." At that point, there was no interaction of, "How are you? This is who I am. Who are you? This is why we were called." Nothing of that. It was an instant, "You're guilty." I immediately asked him for a search warrant. He said he did not. The person that was calling on me, they were my neighbors, she's standing in the yard laughing while the police are on my doorstep. I asked the police to please remove themselves from my property. They could talk to me from the sidewalk. And if I wanted to continue the conversation, I would. They got to the sidewalk, and I said, "Have a nice day," and I closed my door. Because at that point, I was not going to continue the harassment, not only from my neighbor, but from the Northglenn Police Department. This is the direct line of white privilege, something that a lot of you have not had to endure. I go into a store, I'm watched. I was pulled over. The first questions that I received from the officer was, "Are there any drugs, weapons, or alcohol in the car?" There was nothing else. I know that if you were stopped, you're greeted with "sir" or "ma'am." I wasn't greeted that way. So today's white privilege is evident. It's evident in our school systems. It's evident in our judicial systems. It's evident in our city government. And it's evident in our neighborhoods. How do we, as community members, change that? How do you become a change agent? How do you, with that privilege, change those things? Because as a Native American person of color in the city of Northglenn, I get it daily. I sit on the CCPP board here in Northglenn, where I've had to bring it up in that board. So I ask that question of you: how do you become a change agent to not only help your community, but how do you help us that live with you?
Thank you so much, Gerald. Thank you for sharing your lived experience. It's now time for our first poll question. Here is the question. Do you know anyone that has experienced a hate crime? Do you personally know anyone that has experienced a hate crime? If you're listening in on your mobile device, please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. Those here in person, please circle your answer on the sheet provided, and again, we'll collect them at the end of the event. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Isan Riyahi. He is the Outreach Director of the Denver North Islamic Center located here in Northglenn. Isan is also a founding member of the Adams County Faith Leaders Caucus, which is part of Together Colorado, a statewide network of faith leaders. Isan, thank you for being here.
I want to thank the office, the city of Northglenn, for giving me the opportunity to tell my story quick in 5 minutes. Like you mentioned earlier, it's not enough time, but to give an idea of what we and myself as being Muslims have to go through in the city. So about almost 8 years ago, myself and the former imam started an open house where we welcome people to come and learn about who we are as Muslims, break bread, get to know one another, spread love, tolerance, understanding, and so on and so forth. And it was a success day one. However, about 7.5 years, I'll say just 7 years ago, since 7 years ago, this person started coming to our mosque, to our open house, harassing myself and the community and the people who come to learn and to get to know us, to try to scare them away from coming to the mosque, telling them that we're terrorists, telling them that we're bad people, that Muslims do this, Muslims do that, and so on and so forth. This has been going on for 7 years. 7 years. I want everyone in this room to put yourself in a situation where you're constantly harassed for your faith or no faith for that matter, just because you chose to, again, to have a faith or no faith. No one had the right to judge you, to harass you, to bully you based on that. This person has been doing it for 7 years. And in one instance, he actually called an armed militia to come to our mosque and to protests with arms. Thankfully, I let chief and the police know They showed up in force. Those people checking out and they left. They never came. They never showed up when they saw the police presence. It's been going on for so long. Our faith teaches us, same as other faith, not to, if someone spew hatred on you or evil, to not do the same. This person took advantage of it and accelerated his hatred toward myself and the Muslim community to the point that he's been coming to our mosque and yelling at our kids and tell them you're going to hell and so on and so forth. It's been going for so long. The community is fearful of this person. Many people stopped coming to the mosque because they don't want to take a chance. Recently, he sent us an extortion letter asking for money. We reached out to law enforcement, including the FBI and the police. Unfortunately, nothing has been done at all as far as him is concerned. And to add insult to injury, he sued us, he sued the mosque, and myself personally in court, claiming that we're trying to prevent him from his Second Amendment, not knowing that if you go to McDonald's and you spew hate, then that McDonald's manager has the right to tell you you're not welcome because it's a private institution. When it comes to spewing your hate and whatnot, you are not welcome. But it just goes to show you, when did the oppressed become the oppressor, that I have to fight this? I hope not, but have to fight it in court because someone doesn't like me personally, doesn't like my faith. Now, adding to what my brother said earlier about white privilege, had that person that's been harassing us been me or Mr. M doing the same exact thing to someone else, to another institution, guess what? I won't be here sitting talking to you. Because I'm brown, I'm not white, then I'll be in jail. Why is it taking, well, I don't even know what law enforcement is doing, to be honest. So this is an honest place, and that's why we're doing this, is I mean, there should be something that needs to be done. Enough is enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Isan. Thank you for sharing with us. I want to remind those of you who are watching virtually, if you have a question, to please press *3 on your phone. And with that, we'll move forward to Chief May.
Good evening.
Well, let me introduce you first.
I'm ready to go.
You're ready. Chief Jim May started his law enforcement career with the Northglenn Police Department as an officer in 1992. This included time on the SWAT team that responded to the Columbine High School shooting in 1999. After various roles, he was selected as the chief in 2011. And now I will turn it over to Chief May.
They're also a part of our community co-production policing team. And again, this is a group and a board that's going to help us move our police department forward in the future. So I'm really excited with some of the things that they're going to bring forward. And I do appreciate, their comments up here and how we can do and perform our jobs better to make sure that you guys feel safe and secure in your community. I was asked to briefly talk about the process of what happens when a resident reports a bias-motivated crime, or what we're calling hate crime. By state statute, in order to be a bias-motivated crime, we have to show there was intent to intimidate or harass another person because that person actually or perceived race, color, ancestry, religion, national origin, physical or mental ability, or sexual orientation. We have to prove some of those by statute. And actually, our district attorney's he's that lawyer, so he'll talk more in depth on that stuff. So, but again, these are serious crimes. We take them very serious. We strongly encourage you to report them. I know some of these cases go unreported, and we really need you to report those to us so we can help you and assist you. Once you report the crime, we ask you to be very detailed in your information, explain the interactions, provide clear statements to the officers, understanding that this can be a very traumatic and emotional event for you. We also, again, later on when you recollect some more information or more statements that were said, please, reach back out to the police department and let us know so we can add that. And in some of these cases, the crime is evident of what it is, and we can, handle it and file it. But some are more challenging. They may be more challenging than others. So again, if it's that, I'll assign that to a detective, and that detective will do the investigation and go out there and try to solve that crime. If it's real serious, if we have some questions or anything else, the district attorney's office has always been very helpful for us, and we'll say, hey, this is what we have. What do you think? Do you have any suggestions on what else we can do to look at this case, to file it? Again, it's the officers, detectives' responsibility when they go there to get all those elements of the crime, put that case together, and then they'll finally file it with the district attorney's office. Again, we're starting to see, especially over this last year, we've been seeing posters and things show up in our community that I never thought, some of the hate. So again, please let us know if you see those posters. We've seen some neo-Nazi posters. We've seen some other things in our community, and that's not who we are here in North. So she's already given me time limits. But again, I just want to be here. I'm open. I want, again, that transparency within our organization. These, two great gentlemen right here are going to help me go out in the community and make contact with those that might have some reservations about coming to the police department. But I think over the next couple of years, we're going to build great relationships in our community, because that's what it's all about. So again, thank you so much for allowing me to come here tonight and speak.
Thank you, Chief May, and I think you were under time. Time for another quick poll. So poll question number 2. If you or someone you know experienced a hate crime, did you or they report it to the police? If you or someone you know experienced a hate crime, did you or they report it to the police? If you're listening in, please press 1 for yes on your mobile device, press 2 for no. Those in person, please circle your answer on the sheet, and again, save those for us as we will be collecting. Okay, are we ready for the video? All right. Again, thank you, Chief, for educating us. So an integral part of the Northglenn Police Department is the work of our victims advocate. We want to share a video from the victims advocate supervisor, Vida Herrera. Is Vida here? No. So please go ahead and play that video now.
Hi, I'm Vida Herrera. I'm the Victim Service Supervisor for the Northglenn Police Department. We have a team of 7 advocates, including myself, 6 of which are case-carrying advocates, and I have a few bilingual advocates in Spanish. We also have a team of about 20 volunteers or so who go out on scene, and they provide services directly to the victim right after the incident has occurred. Patrol officers call us out on scene, and we work in conjunction with our patrol officers to ensure that victims of any crime are receiving services, resources, and next steps. Although Victim Services works with all victims of crime in the city of Northglenn, specifically today, let's talk about hate crimes. Our victims that we serve are victims of all sorts of different types of crimes. However, hate crimes specifically, we want to ensure that each victim has an individualized service, that they have individualized resources and things that are really tailored towards their needs. Part of the process that Victim Services does while working with our victims of crime here at Northglenn is we ensure that all victims of crime have their rights afforded to them. Part of their rights is to be informed, to be present, and to be heard. They also have the right to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. And that goes for any crime victim that we come in contact with. Victim Services really values the Victims' Rights Amendment, and we ensure that all victims are aware of their rights. As we look at each individual victim's needs, we want to connect them with different community agencies and different victim service agencies that can assist them through the process of healing, whether that be specific due to the hate crime or something else that might be happening in their life. Some of the agencies we've networked with and continue to have great relationships with is Dove, Family Tree, Asian Pacific Center, Servicios de la Raza, Community Reach, and really try to take a look at each individual victim, what their needs are, and try to assist them in connecting with those community agencies. As well as the community resources that are available to all crime victims, we also have specific victim programs that we refer to, such as crime victims compensation, restitution if the case is filed with the district attorney's office, and we partner with the district attorney's office to ensure victims are notified and contacted throughout the actual process of any prosecution. If you report a hate crime to the Northglenn Police Department, please be aware that we will be part of your process in ensuring your victim's rights and ensuring that you do receive community resources as well as victim program information, and that we will be with you every step of the way. Regardless of what direction your case might take, rest assured that Victim Services will connect you with community resources that can help you through your healing process.
Earlier, now I get to say a little about him. As Mayor Lighty said earlier, the city is honored to co-host tonight's forum with the 17th Judicial District Attorney, Brian S. Mason. Brian recently took office on January 12, 2021, but is no stranger to the District Attorney's office. In 2006, he was recruited by then District Attorney Don Quick and has enjoyed serving Adams and Broomfield counties since. Brian, take it away.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you to all of my fellow panelists. I particularly want to acknowledge our first two for their courage in coming forward and telling their stories. One of my goals tonight is to talk about the law. So I'm the chief law enforcement officer for this community. And as Chief May told me or told you, I'm an attorney. So my job is to look at the law. And I want to just walk through with all of you a little bit tonight what the law actually says about hate crimes. So, as Chief May said, if you see a hate crime, if you see or hear of a hate crime that you're aware of, the first thing that you can do as a member of this community and should do is to call the police. Once the police get involved, they will investigate that alleged hate crime and then present the result of their investigation to my office. So the district attorney's office actually looks at the evidence and then compares that evidence to the law and decides whether or not we can file charges. A few things for everyone just to know about hate crimes. First of all, in the state of Colorado, in the statutes, they're not called hate crimes, they're called bias-motivated crimes. That's the same thing as a hate crime. Again, there are two separate statutes under Colorado law where a bias-motivated crime can be charged. One, which we'll go through in just a second, is essentially an addition, a hate crime that goes in combination with an underlying crime. Now, what do I mean by that? If somebody is committing an assault, if somebody is beating somebody up, and at the same time that they're beating someone up, they're using racial slurs, or they are calling the person names that under our law are obscene and are racial epithets. That's a hate crime, in addition to the underlying crime of assault. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. One of the things that I'm required to do as the district attorney, and that my deputy district attorneys are required to do when prosecuting a hate crime in court, is to go through the elements of the charge. And one element of any crime is the mental state of the defendant. So what is actually going through the defendant's head while he or she is committing that crime? when we're talking about hate crimes, the mental state, I have to be honest with you, is hard to prove. It's hard to get into somebody's head. I have personally taken a hate crime case to a jury trial, presented the evidence in front of a jury, and they came back guilty on the assault, but not guilty on the bias-motivated crime. And when we talked to the jurors afterwards, their response was, we just weren't sure what was actually going through his head. Because sometimes when we look at the law, we have to ask ourselves, is this person actually breaking the law? Are they a bigot? Are they using bigoted language while committing a crime? Or is this person just a jerk? Or is this person exercising their First Amendment rights? Those are tricky boundaries that we have to sort out as lawyers at the district attorney's office when prosecuting these cases. What are some things, what are evidence of bias-motivated crimes that you all can be on the lookout for? Certainly when someone makes statements that are intended to harass, and again, we'll go through those two crimes. Social media posts and saying things out loud in public spaces or in private spaces. Now, one of those bias-motivated crimes, it's the statute 18-9121. Sorry, that's a little lawyerly of me to say. But this bias-motivated crime reads as follows: with the intent. So I have to prove that it was the person's intent to actually commit the crime. Again, that's tricky. To intimidate or harass another because of that person's actual or perceived race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, physical or mental disability, or sexual orientation, commits another crime. And again, that commits another crime, or any other crime within the statute book, that while committing that crime, you're also doing something that is racially biased. So those are the elements of our first and main racially biased motivated crime here in Colorado. The second one is called Kiana Ariano's law. This law was passed in response to a serious case years ago where cyberbullying led to a young Douglas County cheerleader to attempt suicide, and it caused her to be a paraplegic and unable to speak for the rest of her life. So that law says that due to another person's actual or again perceived race, color, religion, ancestry, everything I just mentioned, it's important to say perceived, because if somebody is committing a bias-motivated crime and they think that they're beating up someone who is Hispanic, and it turns out that person's not Hispanic, we can still charge them. If they perceived that person to be within one of these protected categories, it's still a crime. Again, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, physical or mental disability, or sexual orientation. Makes statements intended to harass or threaten bodily injury or property damage. Makes obscene statements. Again, these can be direct or indirect to a victim through electronic means. That means text messages, group chats, social media, etc. And I want to acknowledge one change to this law, and it just happened in 2021. And it was thanks to our very own Northglenn State Representative Kyle Moloka. And the law used to say intended to harass or threaten, and it's been changed. That 5 words were added to that section. Intended to harass or threaten in whole or in part. Now, that language or in part is critical. It's critical to us in being able to prove these crimes, because before we could lose a bias-motivated case because a jury didn't believe that throughout the commission of the crime, the person was doing it with an intent or a bias-motivated mindset. This law candidly makes it easier for me to charge and prove hate crimes. So I'm grateful to Representative Moloka and his colleagues at the state legislature. That's a broad overview. I used up Chief May's time that he didn't use. And I just want to conclude by saying, again, we can't take these cases to court or trial unless you report them. And you have to be on the lookout and care about this community and report them when you see them so that we can prosecute them hold the people accountable who commit them, and keep everyone in our community safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for drawing those distinctions for us. Our final panelist on the end there is Special Agent Kristen Verrell. She has been with the FBI since 2013 and has worked a variety of criminal violations, including spending the last 4 years focused on civil rights. Welcome, Kristen. I'll turn it over to you.
Statements. It's an honor to be included in this panel. I think all of us working as a team will help to improve the situation as it stands. So today I just want to give you a little bit of background understanding of what the FBI can bring to the table and what we can do to help in this in where we live right now. So as you know, I was going to joke and say, save the best for last, but then people might think I'm just the feds and I have a big head. But what I think it just, it helps to show is that we can't do anything that we do without these guys coming first. And they're the first lines of reporting and stuff. If an assault happens, you always have the underlying crime that can be addressed at the state and local level. But then we also have additional tools at the federal level if for some reason it doesn't play out as everybody thinks is appropriate. And we're fortunate here in the state of Colorado to have pretty strong statutes as
Brian's fine.
Brian just described, sorry. But it's not the case in many states. So there's a place for the federal statutes in states such as Wyoming, who doesn't have a state hate crime law. And I believe South Carolina, Georgia, maybe. There's only 3 states in the U.S. that don't have state hate crime laws. But I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what our state statutes are, our federal statutes are. So there's 4 hate crime statutes that we generally work with. 2 of those statutes apply to crimes against a person, and 2 of those statutes are more associated with crime against property. And the first 2, so a historical context, I think, also gives some insight into why we're limited in some of the things that we can do. Because if you consider that the statute 18 U.S.C. 245 was written in the 1960s, in 1968, at that time, what was going on in our country was that people were being prevented from accessing just normal everyday activities, riding on a bus or sitting at the wherever they wanted in a restaurant. And so that statute is federally protected activity. So not only do we have to prove that somebody had a bias, it was that they were preventing them from accessing certain federally protected activities as enumerated in the statute. And sometimes, we can get there. There's a case out of New York, and it was in a Hasidic Jew community, and somebody was beat up on their way to the synagogue, and because they were on a public sidewalk, we were able to use that statute to address that case. But it does just add another layer of complexity in being able to address situations where it's not only that you did something because of someone's race, religion, national origin, but you did it to prevent them from accessing a business or sidewalk or a library or voting. So fortunately, though, as Representative Moloka mentioned earlier, Matthew Shepard unfortunately had a very sad tragedy up in Wyoming, but out of it came a new statute in 2009, and that's the Matthew Shepard James Byrd Jr. Act. And that also added protections for the LGBTQ community. And that one, we don't necessarily have to have a federally protected activity, but it has to be a use of force or a threat or use of force. And unfortunately, that statute doesn't actually cover threats. There's a lot of nuances to our federal statutes, so I'm not going to get into a lot of them today. And as I mentioned, there's 2 other statutes that we generally deal with, and it's the Church Arson Protection Act, which came about in the 90s in response to a series of serial church arsons in the South. And then there is the Fair Housing Act, which is preventing someone from their right to fair housing in a neighborhood and apartment complex because of the race, religion, national origin, and I'm generally forgetting quite a few protected classes. But what I really would just like to reiterate again, what everybody else has said, is that we can't do our jobs without the help of everyone here. And so if we aren't aware of anything, we can't do anything about it. And we're trying to, reach out, get out to the different communities that don't know that the FBI is approachable. Every day we have an agent on duty, and you can walk right into our office and speak with an agent and express your concerns or on hate crimes or anything else for that matter. But like I said, we also can't do our jobs without the help of our local partners. Many of these cases are underlying in state cases, and so I have worked a few in many jurisdictions across the state where it's constant communications between the DA's offices and the detectives at the local department, trying to determine what is the best outcome for that victim. How can we best support them and make sure that we're addressing it with the tools that we have? And so hopefully you guys, if you have any questions, like in the next session, but I hope that gave you a little bit more insight into what our federal statute.
I think I've done really well not to trip on that cord all night. Thank you, Kristen. Really appreciate that. And I really want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you, you two, for being transparent and sharing your stories. And thank the three of you for really great information, much needed information that we needed. Now we want to hear from you. We want to hear your questions. Again, if you are on the phone, please remember to press *3 if you have a question. If you're in the audience, please raise your hand, and the lovely Diana will come around with the mic, and you can ask your question that way. So we'll start with those of you in person. Does anyone have a question?
All right, if you could tell us your name and then ask your question, that'd be great.
I'm Brandy, and my question is, these two gentlemen seem to be relaying the information, but it sounds as though the police department hasn't really followed through, and then the DA's office is kind of juggling with it's really hard to then confirm that. So then are we trying to strengthen our police officers and the DA's office so that they feel more comfortable coming to you? Because I'm sure that's why a lot of people don't come, because they've heard stories like this.
Well, again, in some of the cases they're talking about, like from the police department side, we put a lot of time and effort in. And again, and I have no doubt, no doubt in my heart that they believe that those were hate crimes that they, again, but when you're working with the statute and the investigation and everything else, it didn't go that way. When I first, and I won't go into detail because I know he's at court, but when I first heard Gerald's case, I thought for sure it was, right? But then as the investigation prolonged, it then aligned with the statute. So that's why, we did what we did. And I hear you. And one of the things too is we have to listen. And I mean, that's why we created the CCPP board to really engage in that. I mean, I had a great conversation with Gerald yesterday and learning a lot about him and how we can connect with our community of those that don't feel heard, right? And I think these two gentlemen up here are going to help me connect with those voices that in our community that they don't feel they have a voice right now. So I totally hear you. It's again, we are bound by statute in a lot of cases. That doesn't mean our heart's not there, that we want the best for them and deal with the victims. That's why we have a victim advocate program. That's why we have outreach. So again, I think we're moving forward. I think, as a police department, you always want to stress, to become better. I think we've taken steps in our department to do that. And again, but, sounding the stories, actually, Isan's a friend of mine, he's a, good friend of mine. And he's told me, we sat down many a times to, and again, we do the most we can trying to protect them, with officers and extra patrols in those areas. So I hear you. We're doing our best. We've done a lot of training with our officers over the last year when it comes to that.
One of the things that Gerald and I talked about yesterday, some cultural sensitivity training as well. Again, bringing groups in so we can get to understand their cultures, and so we can respond appropriately or respectfully when we come in contact. So that's all.
And I'd like to follow up with her question because it might be more for the DA, FBI, and possibly State Representative Moloka of, do you see any political change coming forward that will strengthen these laws or change them?
So I appreciate both questions, and I'll address it this way. First of all, awareness about hate crimes is super important, and that's one of the main reasons why we're here tonight. When I take a case in front of a jury, how many people in the room have served on a jury before? You have to listen to evidence, you have to hear complicated statutes, and then suddenly put yourself in the jury box and make a decision. And honestly, a lot of jurors don't understand what a hate crime is. And we try our very best to explain it to them. And in many ways, I think we were hamstrung by the laws. And I'm truly grateful to the legislature and to Representative Moloka, who I will continue to publicly thank, because it makes it easier and I think fairer and more just to have opened that law a little bit so that we can charge and seek justice on those cases. But I don't want anyone to leave tonight's panel feeling a sense of despair or a sense of hopelessness about this issue. The laws are strict, they are. However, by having these conversations, increasing awareness, improving education about what hate crimes are, I do think we can make our community safer. Do you want to address that? Okay.
And I think it's important that, there's been a strong movement for criminal justice reform throughout the country and here in Colorado, and making sure that we're balancing that criminal justice reform while still providing our district attorneys and our police officers the tools to protect our community and its citizens. But I think it also goes beyond just criminal justice. There's things and bills that we're passing down at the legislature that I think is addressing this. For example, we passed a bill around curriculum on Holocaust awareness and making sure that's being taught in our schools. We passed a bill to take the term alien out of our statutes, because, we don't want people to feel like they're an alien or that they're unwelcome. And so it goes beyond criminal justice, I believe, and we're definitely looking at that, and we're looking in the realms and Senate Bill 2. Is that me? Oh. Senate Bill 280 obviously did that in the criminal justice realm, but as a legislature, we're looking not only in that realm, but throughout in different areas that we can address it as well.
First or second? Okay. All right. I'll hold it. Can you tell us?
Right here. Okay. My name is Mark Bromley. Most of you guys might have known me. I ran for House District 34. During that election, a lot of information came up about hate crimes. A university out of Oklahoma contacted me about my election. They wanted to know how I felt about having hate crimes aimed at me during my election. And there was Colorado Politics was a newspaper that speared me, lied about me, and created deceptive information. And in that report, it also said that Kyle Moloka himself called me a misogynist, which is actually a hate crime by doing names like that. And I'm sorry, I get a little nervous. I haven't talked in a while. But yeah, there's a lot of hate crimes actually going around in politics. And how do you hold your representative, Kyle Moloka, responsible for his hate crimes? Like, for instance, he passed legislation to murder unborn babies. He also passed legislation confronting, offending parents who believe that they have a right over their children's health and not the state. And he actually called them a them as a group of people that he dislikes. And I was wondering, how does the law actually pertain to representatives who cross the line and actually turn their campaigns into hate and smear campaigns to antagonize and harm their candidates that are running against them and other people that they do not like that are not part of their political party.
Mr. Bromley, at this level and what we're trying to discuss tonight, if you have problems with the state rep, there's other areas where you can reach out to. Again, for local, for us, I mean, DA can talk about this too, but if you have a problem with, what's being said, you can go, to the state, at this local level. We don't oversee the representatives or the state senators.
So respectfully, Mr. Bromley, tonight's forum is about hate crimes. And tonight, if you'd let me speak, sir, if you'd let me speak, please. Tonight's forum is about hate crimes. It's not about political agendas. And so we're going to move on to the next question. I do thank you for being here. I thank everyone for being here. But I would like to keep our questions within the room tonight respectful, not personal, and about policies of, okay, sir, again, you've had your turn. It's other person's turns now, and we're going to talk about how we can keep our community safe. So next question, please.
Tell us your name.
Hello, my name is William Sisson. I am a Northglenn resident. I have more of a question for the city and for law enforcement. I guess I can tell you my story. On the 29th of October, or of July, at the Pro Wash car wash, I was involved in a hate crime, and they called law enforcement saying that I was going to hurt somebody. And long story short, I was just going to count money, and unfortunately, there's been some break-ins over at that location. So I was counting my change, didn't realize I was being called names. I was called Redskin. I was called the N-word several times by the owner. I reported it. I got out, and I carry my Second Amendment because I had to move my family from Thornton, Colorado, from apartments because we had stickers said that we was going to kill you ends, go back to Africa, Redskin, we're going to, scalp you, put stickies in our car. So I moved to Northglenn. My family told me to arm myself. So I got out of the car and immediately tried to engage what was going on. Didn't realize it came out of nowhere. And confrontation back and forth in plain clothes. Immediately he said he was going to call law enforcement, said that they was going to report that I had threatened him with my firearm, which I did not because I have video footage. But all reason because, I fear for my life. And every time I go running in the city of Northglenn, I feel threatened. I feel like I get called to N, run, N, run. And I'm running throughout this neighborhood. I had a cordial conversation with law enforcement officer 481, and his backup. Law enforcement showed up. I called them because of my training to protect my rights, to protect everything that I needed. Law enforcement didn't show up on my behalf. I mean, I called them, but they gave me the look like they wanted to kill me. That didn't feel good. I served my country. My family served my country. We did everything we could. And I reported it as a hate crime because he called me all kinds of racist names and called me everything. I had a cordial conversation with Ron Osgood. Great man. He gave me the time of day. But none of this information that you guys are reporting as civil leaders, federal leaders, state representatives, that was not true. Nothing happened. All we did was, the officer said, I will document. None of those reports, none of these outlined information was done. Nothing. So now I come here to represent, not to point fingers, but to try to get education, to try to find out if these resources are really available that I read, and that's fine, but they're not true because nobody called me after me and Ron Osgood had a cordial conversation. No foul language, no animosity, just two men having a deep, impactful conversation. Last but not least, 12 officers of the Northglenn Police Department have been in my home for not for any negative reason, but reason because I stick up for my community. Not because they don't love me for my community, but I love my community. And I gave them video footage, drinking driving footage, a federal narcotics stop. I've raised concerns with law enforcement with former Commander Michael Prange before he left, sat in my very home to discuss situations. So Ron Osgood can follow up on everything that I've said here tonight because I've invited them into my home and gave them video footage to be an advocate for my community. But I would like to know why there was no follow-up on July 29th, 2020 at Pro Clean Car Wash, and why didn't the officer badge number 481 do nothing, and why wasn't this followed through?
Actually, what I'm going to do, I think Commander Osgood actually, it's I'm glad to get a face with the name. Commander Osgood talks very highly of you, so you guys have a great rapport. So I'll check with him, check into the case, and see where that's at. Make sure that he continues that communication. So, and again, I'm sorry you're going through that. If you go through that when you're running through the neighborhoods again, please call us. I'll give you my direct number after this meeting. Okay. Yep, you're welcome.
So what can we do besides reporting the crime? How can we help? Because I'm not saying I didn't get anything out of this, but how can I help besides calling in a crime? Because I don't see them, but I want to help.
I think the big thing, like Brian mentioned, is getting involved, getting educated what's going on, being active in the community. We have a lot of things, with the police department. We're going to do outreach to the community. Please get involved with that. Again, I think that's really really important, and then we can explain if there's on his case. Like I said, I don't know all the facts and where it's at. Once I do, I can maybe sit down and explain. Okay, this is where the investigation went. Again, you put in that during that investigation, trying to collect the facts the best you can. The other thing too is making sure when you're reporting those statements are really important. Witnesses are really important. When you see something, don't be anonymous, right? I think it's one of those things that we have to protect each other, and by just calling it in, not stepping up and stepping forward to assist, I think that's also encouraged as well.
I appreciate that follow-up question, and I sense some despair in your question or frustration. Let me just say two things. One, you've heard us say over and over again, if you see or witness a hate crime, to call the police. And hate crimes are a top priority for the Northglenn Police Department. Prosecuting hate crimes is a top priority for my district attorney's office. We will take these seriously and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. But it's important also for us to talk about prevention. So preventing hate crimes, not just prosecuting them after they happen. And I think part of the key to preventing hate crimes is one, raising awareness, and two, making clear to the community, all of us, neighbors, citizens, public officials, that we won't tolerate hate crimes here. So when there are stickers that are racist that are left up in our parks, we're reporting them, and then we're tearing them down, and we're showing up and we're helping repaint the park. Putting up signs in your yard or in your windows or on your bumpers saying, I'm a partner with people who are for inclusivity. When I talk to victims of hate crimes, or frankly, when I talk to people who are persons of color or any of the protected classes that we've discussed tonight, I often hear them say, I just felt so alone. I didn't think anybody was going to help me, or I didn't feel like anybody was on my side. And the truth is, a lot of our neighbors, I would dare say most of our neighbors, care about inclusivity in this community. So we have to say that. We have to show that so that our friends who can indeed be victims of hate crimes know that you're there to support them. That's an important part of this tonight, is prevention and showing those in our community that we support them, love them, and that we're not going to tolerate hate crimes against them.
Isan, are you going to say something? You recently talked to the newspaper about this.
Sure. So basically, like the sister mentioned, is what's next? Are we just gonna talk about it and have fun today and smile at each other and that's about it? We'll leave. We'll have a good day. Then, if we don't do something about it today, including every single person in this panel, and then it's useless to even be here. And I know it's not going to be useless tonight. I'm optimistic by nature. So, personally, again, if nothing happened here, then what's need to be done for every single one of you to actually act? Recently, just a few days ago, I'm driving and I see a car behind me, and I'm thinking to myself, is that person following me? Is it that person sending someone following me? Living in fear and thinking that it took 7 years still. That person is dedicated. I'm fearful of my life. Some might say, oh, you're exaggerating. Well, if you say so, then you're not paying attention to the news. When we see every now and then someone snapping and doing something evil. And then it happened that they say, oh, law enforcement had them in their radar and nothing happened. Well, guess what? This person, I know that they are in the law enforcement radar and nothing is happening. So don't tell me that I shouldn't be fearful for my life, for my community, and for any other community for that matter. Because if he gets away with it, then guess what? Copycat. Then we'll have someone else doing the exact same thing against every single person of you, regardless. So to be honest, I feel personally that it's like I'm a second-class citizen because I'm a Muslim. That's my feeling. You won't see it in my face because most of the time I'm smiling and happy-go-lucky, but this is it's a little serious. And I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about it. Not blaming someone in person or a department, but like the sister said, what can we do about it? What's next? Enough of showing something on the screen and talking about it and say, we're going to do something. We're doing this. We're doing that. We need action. This guy has been harassing myself and my Muslim community for over 7 years. And you're telling me, oh, there is nothing we can do about it. Great. What if it was me or my brother over here doing the mimically exact same thing to someone else in the community based on their faith or no faith? Again, like I said earlier, I will not be talking to you today. I'll be in prison, right? Because I'll be charged with hate crime and this and that. But since this person is, taking advantage of that white privilege that is existing, this disease that is still going on in this country, then nothing will happen. So I hope by the end of this meeting today, that some of the people here in law enforcement and that have the power or our government to do something about it. Maybe there should be a law, for example, to our rep over here, that if you harass anyone, if you bully someone based on whether their faith or their this or that, you don't have to wait until they hurt you physically to do something about it. Is that what we're waiting on? Then wait until that person comes and put the bullet in my head, and then go ahead and do something about it. Oh, poor Isan. Let's do something. Let's call it Isan's law, right? Well, this is not how it should be. Before we name it someone else's law, then let's make sure that we prevent it from happening. Thank
I also want to address that, I want to give you advice, brother. Don't give up. The more it happens, the harder you fight. When the hate crimes were perpetrated against me, I organized a march. The Native American community, Hispanic community, LGBTQ community, Asian community, African American community, we marched from the park by my house to the police department and then gave a media press release there. Words there, what I gave was that if you're not going to hear me now, I'm going to insert myself into your offices. And that's what I've done. I sit on the CCPP board. I've made sure that I'm heard. My concerns are addressed. Because, and I just talked to my brother about that earlier, if we don't do it, don't get done. Because again, that goes to that white privilege. They don't see it. It's like in here just a minute ago, where this panel is about hate crimes against people of color, and we bring up a white privilege about a political thing against another political agent. That's white privilege. So what I have to say is that when these things happen, report it. If you're not satisfied, report it again. Chief and I had many heated conversations. But I can say that we work towards the same mission. We work towards the same vision. We might not agree all the time, but we agree to disagree, and maybe one day we'll totally be in agreement. And that's our mission. Like I said, we met yesterday. Heather was there also. So was Rupa. But I'm not a statistic. I'm not another brown face in the crowd. I'm not a redskin. That is actually a derogatory term that is used. In fact, till this day, there is a college that possesses a book. It is the skin of a Native American that covers that book. The title of the book is Redskin. That still happens today. So don't give up. But I also have to say, with white privilege that you have, use it in a good, positive way. Become our allies, not our enemies. Become the change agents with us, not the person that fights us. Because as you know, neither one of us are going away. Neither one of us are shy about bringing or voicing our opinions. And we're going to be that in this community. I've received the same thing you have. Just the other day, truck comes by our in front of our house, honking and honking. You know, I served my country too. I come from a long line of warriors. This truck came by to make me notice them. The wife and I were sitting eating dinner. And they came by and honked their horn. They had their back of their truck, all these flags. They wanted to make sure that they seen us. Is that spewing hate? It continues every day. But I need you that has that white privilege not to take a step back, not to look at me differently, but extend your hand. In my wife's language, there is a saying, it says, mitakuase, means all my relations. It doesn't say my Native relations or my Hispanic. It says all my relations. That's inclusive of everyone. In our ceremonies, when you end, it's mitakiwa, all my relations. Be the change agent with us together. Then maybe we can make a change in Northglenn. But until then, these forums are going to continue daily.
I want to add some one thing quick to what my brother said. Myself and Gerald, obviously, we're outspoken. We're not shy. We talk a lot, and we'll do it day on, day out. So I want every single one of you to think about people who are not like myself and my brother next to me, are shy, fearful, won't speak the language, and so on and so forth. When something like this happened to them, how about them? So that's my question.
I think the mayor had a question or wanted to make a comment.
Yes, I do have a question, but I'm just so in awe of this entire process. So thank you for being here and for sharing these really important stories and asking really tough questions, because it's so important. So District Attorney, you used the word despair, which I think was spot on, because I started with, well, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. He's frustrated. She's frustrated. And that's not deep enough. So the word despair is much more illustrative of how everyone's feeling. But I think we do, to Isan's point, need to come up with an action plan. This is step one. I do think that having this forum at all is step one. And I'm so excited to see the people in the room and know that we have quite a few people online with us tonight. But I know for a fact that the city is committed to moving forward with action. So right now we have a community navigator. How can we enhance that role and deepen that role? We have our DICE board that is focused specifically on diversity, inclusivity, and social equity. This is something that they're very passionate about. But just developing these groups and just having these discussions is not enough. You're totally right. I get frustrated, so I'm so glad someone asked the question about changing the law or leaning in and pushing back on the law, because one of the questions, and I don't know, I can anticipate your answer, but I would like a public answer, District Attorney. One of the questions we get the most right now is around flags. So we're having really uncomfortable residents with Confederate flags or Nazi flags. And it goes beyond frustrating when it's their First Amendment right to do so and how it makes everyone feel. So if you could speak to that a little bit, I think that would help, because it's something that we hear every week.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, for that question. And my answer won't be very satisfactory to many of the people who are listening. It is not a crime to display a racist symbol. It is not a crime to fly a Confederate flag. I find that symbol and that flag abhorrent. And I know probably most people in this room would agree with me. But that is not a crime. In order for it to be a bias-motivated crime or a hate crime, you have to use that flag or that symbol or words to harass somebody else, or or at the same time while you're committing another crime, such as an assault. The First Amendment is very broad. It's a foundational principle of our democracy, and from the very beginning, that has protected speech that we don't always like. So hateful flags, hateful symbols, racist flags and symbols can't be banned. I'm not allowed to prosecute somebody because they fly that flag on the back of their truck, or they fly it in their home, or that's not against the law. But if you cross the next line of using that flag or racist language to harass or to stalk or assault somebody else, then I can prosecute them, and I will.
Bet everybody at home is listening to my shoes clip, clap, clip, clap. Sorry about that. We do have another question from the audience.
Hello, it's William again. This is more of a question educational for federal and our state. As you know, if you pay attention to the news media, the Asian hate because of coronavirus and so forth. And I'm sitting here listening to all the arguments and everything, and I understand it, and I know as far as the statutes and so forth, I understand that. But how is it so possible that we've been raising our families 400 years and trying to identify and get that same, but they passed it in Congress with Asian hate. And I read an article with Jeremy Lin, a basketball player, was born in the U.S. that played basketball, and it started with him. How did they pass a law so quickly, so fast about Asian hate? Because they thought, whatever it might be, that coronavirus started in China and then they brought it here. How is it possible that the city can't do anything quickly, but our Congress can? It doesn't seem suitable. And my brother up there on the panel, I understand where he's coming from, and I just hear over and over again, but they just passed it at the highest level. How is that possible that Northglenn can't?
I'm not sure if that was a question directed to a member of this panel or if it was more of a statement. Representative Moloka might want to take it.
And thank you for the question. So, and that's what we were trying to do with Senate Bill 280, is to really, give that opportunity to not handcuff our prosecutors as much as they were previously handcuffed to be able to take care of those cases. But again, I'll go back to that previous point that I said too. I think that there's other areas that I want to make sure that our community knows about that we are doing down at the Capitol to address this. And I think a lot of that's through education. We passed a bill this year banning Native American mascots for our high schools in the state of Colorado. Last year, I was the prime sponsor that eliminated the Columbus Day holiday in Colorado and turned it into Mother Cabrini Day because we were hearing from members of our community that these things were hurting them and that they didn't like it and that the harm that it brought. And we wanted to do something about that. And so there are things that we are addressing from the criminal justice standpoint, but we're going beyond that as well, because I think that to dig deeper and get to this issue, there has to be education. People need to understand everyone in our community and where they come from and their history, because I don't have the lived experiences that you all do, and there's members in our community that don't. And I think to really get through this, we need to understand those experiences and respect them, knowing that we may never live them, but to learn about them and to respect them, I think can go a long way to try to make sure our community comes together and we can try to stop some of the acts that are happening.
I know you kind of asked about the federal side of it, and I'm not an attorney. I was not in Congress, but that act, what I do know about it is more about funding to make it more readily available for us to go out and do some outreach to try to help pass that message, like explain what the tools are that we do have. And I think we're just one piece of the solution. We're not going to be, as law enforcement, we're not going to be able to solve everything by ourselves. And we have tools that can help hopefully deter people from conducting these acts. But unfortunately, I don't think putting somebody in jail is going to get rid of the hate in somebody's heart. And so we'll do what we can do, and we'll continue to try to get out there and try to be partners with everybody and try to work towards building a community where we all do feel safe. But we're just all going to have to continue to work together towards that in the lanes that we have available to us.
Are there any other questions?
Are there online or from our virtual listeners?
Actually, I have a question, if that's okay. District Attorney, I heard you talk about on sitting juries, it's really hard for them to even understand what a hate crime is. And Chief, I heard you talk about it's really important to have statements and witnesses. If I feel I've been affected by a hate crime and I call you, what specifically do I need to tell you?
Again, just like so when they tell their stories and asking questions, does that story fit the statute? That's what we have to look at. Does it fit there? What were they feeling? All that. And that does. And again, like Brian said earlier, it's not what they believe, right? As the victim, it's not what they believe. And, when you look at it for charging, it's what the suspect believes. So again, just like correct me if I'm wrong, it's when you're trying to prove that in either circumstantial evidence at the case or what, when you put it all together, does that make up, can we figure out what they believed at the time that they were, racially intimidating with intent to intimidate, to harass because of their national origin, because of their race, because of religion. So we try to figure that out in this case. Is it tough, when we flip open the book and it doesn't meet, it's like we can't charge that. So, but again, in some of these cases, we charge what we can to, again, try to get relief, for our victims some way. So again, when we have a crime, if we can't prove a hate crime, we're going to do all we can to make sure that we put a great case together for the other crimes that they did. So again, I think that's the hardest thing in the education piece. And I love, people coming up and saying, what else can we do? And I feel horrible that Isan, feels, when he's driving around in his car and then he looks in his back and the car's behind him for a while, that he thinks it's, this knucklehead that's, been harassed, again, his First Amendment rights protesting at the mosque, right? So, or Gerald, where this guy, comes up in on his property and doing what he did to, Gerald and his family. So again, I get passionate about it too, and you can only do as much as the statute allows you. And I think Brian probably could talk about it.
I'll just add this. There's no checklist. Yeah. You don't need to have a checklist of things that you need to have prepared to say to call law enforcement. You just need to tell your story. We train our officers. I train my DAs to ask the right questions so that we can elicit the information from anyone who calls or reports a crime, and then we'll sort through the statute. We'll sort through the legals. Just call and tell us your stories. Yep. Tell us what happened.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, I'm wearing these glasses, but these lights are miserable for me. I've been a principal of schools. When children get bullied, when children bully, we have consequences. So I'm really having a hard time understanding why this is quite so difficult. It's so hard for the common person to understand the law the way things are written. It just comes down to common decency and care of our fellow man. And I think that's the only way that this can, yes, the awareness, we need to build that. We do a teacher training. Very important that we're all working on awareness and waking people up to what bias is and what, cultural life is and how it can be different as we're all raised. So we all become more aware that we actually have our own culture as white people as well. I'm Swedish and I have a lot of Swedish things that I was made to recognize by a man that we are working with who is Native American. But we can do all those things, but we need law enforcement to do stuff. We need our congressmen to, get those laws to be okay because, bullying's not okay. Harassment's not okay in our society. And I do know, People have free speech. I really care about free speech. I care about, my rights to choose things. But, it's wrong to not follow through on these things. So whatever has to be done to change those laws so that people have consequences when these guys are coming with their flags to Gerald, is your name? To Gerald's home, that is clear harassment in my feelings, and I'm sure his. So he's not safe. He wants to protect his wife. His wife wants to protect him. And they're coming right out and parking outside of their home with these flying flags. The flags aren't the issue, but that is harassment. That's his property. They just can't be there honking their horn and doing that. So anyway, I just want to say that I'm feeling that we're making too many excuses, and our Congresses and everyone needs to get to work and get this changed, because even in schools they can't bully one another, right?
I appreciate your comments, and I'll just say a couple things. First of all, it is illegal to bully somebody because of their race or gender or sexual orientation. That is illegal. And when it happens, it should be reported. And we do follow up on it. The police department does follow up on it. And the district attorney's office does file and prosecute those cases. So don't walk away tonight thinking that we're not doing a lot. That's why we're here, because we care about this issue. And in fact, we're doing a whole lot on it. And we want people to know what we're doing and know that they need to be a part of it. It's not acting defensive or making excuses, though, for me to say to you all that it is not against the law to be a bigot. It is not against the law to be a racist. It's just not. And so that's why it's important for us as a community to be able to say, we don't tolerate that here. And law enforcement and the laws can't fix everything in society, but our community can come together and try. And so we're going to do our part when a law is broken. But as a community, we have to speak with one voice and say that we're going to stand up for inclusivity. We're going to stand up for our brothers and sisters who don't look like us, or who don't worship the way we do, or who have a different sexual orientation. We're going to stand up for them. And that's why I actually feel optimistic, not pessimistic, when I stand in front of a group like this, because I believe this is part of coming together to show that to them.
Real quick, thank you for being that courage to step forth and say, you know what, I'm not going to stand by and let this bypass me. For you stepping forward and using that and becoming that change agent, thank you for that, because that's what we need, is those allies. Thank you.
So it is the top of the hour, and we just got one question online.
This is a short one, though. The question is basically, are the LGBTQ plus community included under hate crimes, and does that include transgender and non-binary individuals?
Yes, it does.
So yes, it does, and that's an answer to Simone Perry on Facebook. Thank you, Simone, for your question.
And thank all of you for the great questions tonight as well. I hope you all learned a lot. I know I did. Thank you to this great panel. This now brings us to our final poll question. Quickly, has this conversation helped you understand what a hate crime is and how they can be legally addressed? If you are joining us online, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. For those of us here, please circle on your form, and again, please leave that on your chair when you leave. I want to also let you know that you can also volunteer to become a victim's advocate yourself. Very important work. And if you are interested or want information on that, please contact Vita. Her information is available on the City of Northglenn's website and also in your handout that you received if you're here in person. Again, please leave your forms on your chair. You also have an index card if you want to leave any comments, or if you want anyone from the city to reach back out to you, please leave your contact information Tonight's forum has been recorded. So if you'd like to watch it, you can visit our website at any time. And we really thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. Thank you.